Hey guys, Johnny Disc Golf back at it again with an interview of my good friend, Mr. Thomas Gilbert. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, Corey. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing good. I'm looking at my window right now, and it is a brisk, sunny, and 58 to 60 right now. How's it going in Canada right now? What's the weather like?
It's about a cloudy day, but a foot of snow on the ground and maybe about 7 degrees.
Okay, wow, that's rough. I guess that leads me into my next question. Off the top, you've got a new sponsor, but have you been playing a ton?
I've been doing my best. I mean, I just posted a video on my YouTube channel recently about me
Hmm.
throwing a bunch of discs out on our frozen lake here at our cottage property. So that's kind of been like my field work, I guess, this off season. And been playing a decent amount out on some of the local courses here.
Okay. So I mean, listen, big news. I want to get it up, right off the top of the interview. That logo on your chest is different this year. Talk to me
Yeah,
about it.
it's
Who's your sponsor? What's the deal this year?
So yeah, I've recently announced January 1st that I was going to be continuing forward with Prodigy discs. So I'm really, really excited about that. Prodigy came at me with a really big offer, and they really wanted to support me and kind of bank on my future, which was something that hadn't really been done as much in the past. So I was really excited to kind of move forward with them and see how it goes.
Yeah, how did that all get started? Because you know, we all travel together per se with like the disc golf scene. We're kind of like going in and out, hanging out with this person, that person. But you do roll around with the Prodigy crew quite a bit. Seppo, Charlie, Kev, all those guys. How did this whole conversation get started?
It actually started with the Prodigy Canada guy. So his name is Colin Fitchett, and
Hmm.
he kind of does some of the Prodigy Canada dealings here. And he kind of just messaged me out of the blue, kind of like, "Hey, I know that your like contract's coming up, and want to let you know that you're in Prodigy's eye, and we're kind of interested in you, and like what are and sort of some of the things that like we could possibly do for you to get you interested in." I'm like, at first I was a little hesitant. I was just like, oh, I'm really comfortable with Innova. I
Hmm.
mean, like, I don't see myself really leaving them anytime soon. And then he kind of worked with that and took it and created this kind of like draft contract that we would kind of present to myself. And then it got me thinking. Like, I was like, okay, this isn't just like some what if conversation anymore. Like, this is something that I can could look at and need to look into further and see
Hmm.
if that's really something that would benefit me. And then through a couple of negotiations between Prodigy and Innova, and a couple more things coming up, then eventually it just became impossible to refuse Prodigy. So it's like I really really am excited about the things that we have come up with, and it's going to be really exciting. I'm very much looking forward to how all those things develop.
Yeah, it's wild that I came up for the BC Open a long time ago, and one of my buddies out there, he kind of showed me around. This guy Chance out in the BC area, Vancouver area. He was the first Canadian that I'd ever seen throwing Prodigy, and this was maybe 2 years ago. It seems like it's really making a creep up north. Does it seem to be the case?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even just from the contract signings they've done this year, they signed me and then also another FPO top player, Sandy Hendel. So
Hmm.
that was really, really big. And then they also re-upped their contract with Casey Hannemeyer, another really big top
Hmm.
Canadian player who's killing the scene out in BC. And I'm really excited to hopefully see him tour next year.
Yeah, yeah. I met Casey out at BC Open, and yeah, you two kind of, not that your games are at all similar in any way, but from a body style standpoint, there is like a long, tall, Slenderman thing going on in
Yeah,
Canada right
yeah,
now.
for sure.
um, well, let's talk about the discs that you're going to be throwing this year, right? Because whole new bag, obviously, and
Hmm.
Prodigy. When I talk to people about the different brands, Prodigy to me stands out in that their discs aren't just like replicas of other discs, right? They
Yeah.
all kind of have a unique feel. You could describe them as, oh, it flies like a Flippy Destroyer or like a T-Bird, but
Mhm.
they don't feel like a T-Bird that was like cut in half and copied. Is
Yeah,
that
yeah.
is that something that like is that a pro or is that a con for you, I guess?
I think it's a pro. I mean, I know just from like the experience of throwing them over the past like month and a half, it's opened up some new shots for me. So it's like some of the discs are also just so unique that yeah, they created a possibility that wasn't right there before.
Mm.
So I mean, particularly I think Prodigy's most unique disc, the A2 and the A series. I don't think really many companies really have like gone into that kind of manufacturing. I know it's immediately was like a handy tool in my bag because it's such a reliable, overstable disc that you can just hammer forehand or backhand. And
Hmm. Um, there seems to be a lot of people kind of making. I'm going to go short to say an exodus from Innova, okay? But there's quite a few players that I've seen that were sponsored by them last year that aren't this year. Is there
mm-hmm.
anything from your perspective that led to a few of those players not re-upping?
Yeah, I mean, just from even just my own kind of negotiations with Innova, they are such a huge company, and they have probably the biggest team, almost double the size of any other manufacturing team out there. So I know that they were trying to kind of narrow down their team a little bit, kind of focus
Okay.
on the key players in each team level, and try to give them a little bit more than what they were able to in the past. So like there had been discussions on upping my contract level with Innova, but as well, they just can't dump resources into specific players that might be interested in leaving. So I know Scott Weathers was another player that another
Mm-hmm.
big player that left, and I think that he's an amazing player. I think he just up on the last update went back up to 1040, and so that's a huge rating. But as well, just with the lack of touring that he
Mm-hmm.
does throughout the year, they weren't able to kind of put that star team resources into his contract, so he wasn't able to kind of get what he's looking for, what he thinks his worth is. And I mean, that's very fair, and that's why he kind of had to make the switch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny. It seems like there's like this ebb and flow with manufacturers where sometimes one manufacturer is dumping a lot of money into like building their team up and that sort of thing, and then another manufacturer is kind of culling a little bit, and then a couple years later they pop back up and they really start to blow up. It seems like Prodigy is in that kind of like bringing as much talent to the team as possible. Did it have that vibe? Were they like really excited to kind of like look at any new players?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know the kind of ins and outs of like who they were looking at and like what players were being approached and which ones weren't.
Hmm.
But I know that yeah, they definitely were going team heavy this year. They signed a lot of really great players. I think they signed or like re-upped contracts from I think like 9 different players on the team. So it was really good to see. And I mean, it feels good as one of those players that they're kind of moving in this direction,
Hmm.
and hopefully that'll reflect how they kind of treat us as team players in this next year, which I'm excited about.
Yeah. Speaking about this next year, let's talk about schedule, tourneys, events, where you're going to be. The Pro Tour starts. I'll be there. Vegas. I should be there maybe the 21st, 22nd, or something like that. But I'm not going to be on tour quite as full time this year as I have been in the past. What's your schedule like?
So my schedule is actually like fuller than it's ever really been. I plan on doing every single Disc Golf Pro Tour Elite Series. I think I have 3 or 4 Silver Series planned up, all the national tours, and then also all 3 majors. So
Wow.
honestly, it's crazy to think, but that almost fills up the entire touring year now. It's
Yeah.
like it's insane how many huge touring events there are nowadays. Where it's like it seems like okay, there's the national tour, you got those 6 events, then you have the 3 majors. Fill your weekends with whatever eight.
Yeah.
And now it's like I only have room for like 3 or 4 A tiers that
Hmm.
kind of like I want to go to just because like it's a fun, sounds like a fun event. It's like the tour is like really kind of set in stone nowadays.
Yeah, it really is shocking. I was kind of like, it's the off season right now. I've been taking it a little easy and, working on some personal projects and, trying to like live a life at home for once, and I'm looking at the schedule for next year, and I'm trying to figure out like where my off weeks are, and
Yeah.
there are none anymore. You know what I mean? There's like a 7 week stretch on the West Coast where I think there's seven events and 8 weekends or something like that. Is like is that exciting to you, or is it daunting a little bit?
Sorry, can you repeat the question? It cut out a little bit.
Yeah. Is that full of a schedule exciting or like daunting? You know what I mean? Like, are you like, holy moly, I'm on the road every day?
I would say it's honestly pretty exciting because there's also like this level of prestige that comes with these events, like being set in stone. Like these are the elite events. These are where the elite players will go. So I mean that part of it's really really exciting, and yeah, it can be daunting somewhat as well, knowing that like so many really good players are committed to these events, and that's like the thing to do. I mean, everyone's kind of been posting their tour schedules recently, and it's like the same kind of 20 tournaments that make up almost everyone's schedule, and then it kind of like a little bit of personal preference in there for some of the other ones. But I mean, basically, yeah, 20 tournaments around. Everyone's going to those 20 tournaments.
One of the biggest things, I'm just going to shift gears a little bit. One of the biggest things when people talk about Thomas Gilbert's like disc golf game is big, huge shots, right? That Goat Hill tournament, couple tournaments were very memorable, stuck in people's minds. Big, huge shots, like aggressive putting. But the woods golf, you know, I know you like it. Everybody loves throwing the woods. We wouldn't highlight you as like a woods golfer per se. Do you think that Prodigy is going to, or do you think the switch to Prodigy is going to aid or help in any way, you know, maybe that technical side of your game?
I would say a little bit, yeah. I mean, just from the Prodigies that I've thrown, it's a lot of the molds are slightly more understable than some of the traditional molds that I had in my bag before. So I feel like it's going to be a lot of those like kind of like nice hyzer flips through the woods and like hitting those gaps on those angles and just letting them glide throughout the trees. And I feel like that could open up some shots that and some kind of plays in the woods that I might not have had before. And I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm like a bad woods player.
Yeah.
I mean, like Idlewild was a tournament this year, for example. Like, it's like very heavily wooded course, known for being wooded. And I was up there on chase card, kind of like battling for the top 10 throughout the entire tournament. So I think, yeah, I mean, it's exciting to see how these new discs will apply to those kind of wooded courses, but I feel good about it.
Yeah. Have you had anybody from like a ex-Prodigy player, anything, or a current Prodigy player kind of like tell you about some good discs they have, give you some like of the good old batches, or like, you know, when Kevin Jones joined the team, Big Germ, he ended up getting like 1,500 discs from Big Germ. So like, have you had any like disc godfathers in your life?
I've honestly had more than I can really count now. I'd have to go back to my messages and see each and every one. But yeah, I mean, immediately Chris Dickerson actually sent me some really good D2s and D3 or D1s and D2s.
Okay.
And those are like kind of my staple drivers right now in the bag. And then also, I mean, yeah, so many people on like the Facebook Prodigy groups and all the kind of like auction sites. Like I post like, hey, what's a good run of this disc or that disc, or what should I be throwing, kind of knowing my game. And like hundreds of people kind of like saying, oh, you need to try this or that. And I'm like probably close to 20 plus people messaging me on Facebook being, hey, I got these really, really good runs of D2, the F1, M4, whatever. And so it's like, it's such a cool feeling. Like that's been probably the most exciting thing since the switch, is just how much love I feel from all these Prodigy fans who are like, let's get Thomas these good discs so he can really perform on tour next year.
Yeah, that's kind of a unique, it's funny, I didn't even really think about that side of it. Is, you know, Innova, I just don't see that happening a lot, where it's like people are excited about giving old Innova plastic to people, but like all the other manufacturers, you know, it's like, oh, I've got this sweet disc. Like no one would give their old Sexton Firebird to somebody, you know what I mean? But like somebody, you know, is like, oh, this old blue D2, it's such a bomber. Here, dude. Like I love Prodigy so much. I just want to see it getting good use.
Yeah.
Is that That's got to be fun, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's so much fun. And yeah, you're right. Innova, I feel like Innova just being that kind of like older market as well. It's like, oh, you're not getting my O2
Yeah.
rock. These things are money. And like,
Yeah.
and also Innova kind of has that thing where I feel like the value of their discs have shot up a lot as well. Not, and like a few companies are kind of on the brink of that, of getting really, really valuable discs. But I feel like Innova, it's like, oh, dude, those Avery destroyers, these are the best run ever. $150.
Yeah.
It's
No.
like, ooh, I don't know. I
Yeah.
can't really do that. But
No.
like, luckily for me, Prodigy, some of the best runs are not extremely expensive, and people are kind of even just willing to let them go to see them thrown on coverage at one point in time.
Yeah. No. 100% true. Speaking of those kind of other discs, you said kind of other manufacturers are on the brink of that. Was there any? And we're kind of just dancing around here, but was there any other manufacturers that made a major play, or like was there any other interesting deals on the table that you kind of had to like pick and choose from, or was it Prodigy from the get go and it just made sense?
Yeah, I mean, it was Prodigy and Innova. Basically, those were the only two major companies on the table. I had heard about interest like earlier on in the year from other companies, but really it was just kind of Prodigy that had made a big offer, and that was kind of the one going back and forth. And also the timetable for when that deal was like first brought to me, and when we were like, okay, let's sign the papers, was honestly a lot quicker than I even could really handle.
Oh
So it
wow.
was like all of it was coming so fast, and I felt comfortable with it. Like they were offering me something that I was like, okay, I have to look at this. This is like amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, not really many other kind of outside companies really coming into it, but yeah, I was just dealing with Prodigy and getting the most that I could, and it worked out really well.
This is interesting. So this is a question I think is going to be a little bit more relevant next year and the year after and the year after that. But was there anybody like in your corner? Like, did you have any? I want to say like representation, but did you have any like guidance from somebody who like has been here before, has dealt with these manufacturers before, or were you kind of like on your own in Canada on an island, kind of trying to figure this out for yourself?
No, I mean, I was talking to several people,
Okay.
several good friends who had dealt with switches, who could give me good feedback, who has also a good idea of like my value
Hmm.
in the sport and can say, okay, this is a really good deal, or no, they're
Yeah.
lowballing you.
Okay. Good.
And so getting that feedback from several different friends was really, really helpful kind of throughout that process.
Okay, no, that's good, and that's something that, like, we saw Ezra Adderhold announce recently that
Mm,
he was signing with Discraft, and one of the major points is that Nate Perkins kind of like
yeah.
had his back or helped with some of the negotiations, and I think that's going to be something going forward that Paul Macbeth tried to do it a couple years ago with the agent, maybe a couple
Mm.
years too early, but like. Is that something that you see becoming more relevant as some of these contracts are going to start being worth some money?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I mean, I think even just having that outside opinion to kind of like see it from a third view, because like I think it's normal in business. You're gonna get sweet talked. You're gonna
Hmm.
get the like, oh, we think you're this level here, and we value at this level, even though they are willing to go two levels higher.
Yeah.
And you having that outside view, it's like, oh, okay, maybe I am at just this level, but then you have another person that says, no, you're
No.
definitely at least this level.
Yeah.
So getting that just opinion, and I think having an agent or someone like that in the future will be really big. Someone who knows exactly what they're talking about, knows exactly your worth versus other people in the sport as well, and kind of trying to figure out that exact number will be key in a couple of years.
Yeah, no question. I mean, it seems like, obviously Macbeth's his big one. He's got the big, you know,
Yeah.
giant figure on it. But, some of these contracts are going to start being quite lucrative. And, it is just interesting to see that whole model shift, right? From like 2, 3 years ago when it was just like in a back room, nobody's really talking about it. And then I remember, man, I remember when Kevin Jones went to Prodigy that year, there was, he was getting suited by all these different companies. And that was the first time I'd ever seen any sort of like agenting in disc golf. Did you talk to any of the Prodigy guys, like those big top tier players about like, well, I guess let me pause. Let me ask this question first. What are you what team are you with Prodigy? Because I know there's the core team, and I think right below that is the tournament team, right?
Yeah.
So where do you fit in with all this?
So I will be on the core team for 2 years going forward. Yeah.
Wow, that's so. Should have started with that. That is huge.
Thank you.
So huge, man. And Nate Sexton once said it. There's a 1040 golfer in there, and we all have seen it before. But what's the signature disc now? Core team does get like their face, their likeness printed on a disc, mass produced. So what are we looking at?
I mean, it hasn't been decided yet, so we're still kind of talking about the mold. I can say that I personally would really, really like to see a Thomas Gilbert D2 out there.
Oh, my man. You know it. I love it.
Because also, I was shocked that's not even someone's core team disc last year. Like, dude, that's
it's
a huge
the driver.
Yeah, and it's honestly my favorite mold in Prodigy so far. Just because like it's a big bomber. It has so much glide, so much distance, and it's like, I love watching the flight of those shots. It's just part of my game. So it's like, yeah, I would love getting a signature D2 for the core team disc.
Oh man, I love it. What's your plastic of choice on the D2? Do you go with do you go like 400? So it's like a little bit more overstable, 400G, a little flippier. What's your deal?
Yeah, I feel like 400G, maybe. There was also like a really nice plastic that they made last year. I think it was like the 400 Spectrum or something. It was it felt pretty like it was gummy, but like it held its shape really good, but it had a great grip.
Yeah.
And I think that would be a plastic that I'd be interested in kind of using for that core team disc.
The question is, like, do you feel yourself as, because you're on a team with Kale LaVisca, Kevin Jones, Seppo Payu, Katrina Allen, like some of the world's best. Is that for you, like, pressure or an opportunity or, is it nothing to you? Like, how does that, how do you feel on the inside when you hear that?
All those players that you listed have an amazing kind of history in the sport, and if I can kind of somewhat replicate that as a core team member now, that would be kind of the dream. So it's definitely a confidence boost and a really good feeling to be associated with all those players.
Yeah. Has anyone reached out to you like from that core team? Like, have you been, I guess it's a little different now with COVID. It's not like you can do like a big go down to the manufacturer and have a party and that type of deal or something, but like, have you felt the love from the other team members?
Yeah, I definitely have. I mean, I've gotten messages from Kevin, Seppo, Chris, Katrina, other players, lots of other players on Prodigy as well. But yeah, I definitely felt welcome to the team. From also some of the Prodigies they've reached out as well. So it's definitely felt really good and warm welcome.
Well, hey man, I'm honestly really, really stoked for you. You've been with Innova, a major manufacturer in the past, but this one feels like the first real contract. Like, you were with a major manufacturer, you were sponsored, but now, you're a sponsored, professional, legitimate disc golfer, man. And I want to give you a chance to say anything that you would like to the people at home, the fans, anyone who's been pulling from the great white North Hope, Mr. Canada himself, Thomas Gilbert. Anything you want to say to the people?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would like to thank everybody who has supported me. I've gotten hundreds and hundreds of messages and comments on all my forms of social media recently. I'm definitely feeling the love. If you want to kind of keep up with me and my progress, I mean, I try to post my YouTube channel pretty frequently as well. My Facebook and Instagram, I always try to keep tabs of, and also just be on the lookout for a lot of really cool things, Tour Series discs, and a bunch of other kind of cool projects that I can't go into right now. But but some more really exciting things to come from me in the future.
Awesome, man. Well,
Prodigy.
I'm so stoked for you again. Super excited to see Prodigy making its way up north. You, Cindy, Casey, everyone. That's all I've got for you for now, Thomas. I wish you nothing but luck. I'll see you in Vegas, that is for sure. But until then, guys, thanks so much for watching this interview. Make sure to hit subscribe for all things disc golf. Thank you.